Hi everyone, Diablo 3 Season 34 is starting today and it's going to be a big one. In fact, this is the first season for me that I'm playing in, I think, 3 or 4 seasons or so. I've also have not really uploaded any Diablo 3 content, as you may know, in the last year or something like that. But this time around, I'm also planning to jump in myself. And this is because it's the Angelic Crucibles. You might remember this if you have played Season 27. This is probably one of the most impactful, most beloved season themes of all time. In case you don't know it or don't remember, you find these consumable items that make an item effectively primal, and you get 1 out of 3 separate class-specific powers that you can see here in this overview as well. We also have like an updated guide here, sanctified items, so you want to check that out maybe, just to see with more explanations about how everything works. And of course, we have the updated build guides. So you see here, you can filter by all the classes and stuff. Everything has been updated to Season 34 to include the new meta with the old season theme. And you can see this, for example, when you go into those guides. Past the introduction, we have the seasonal theme explanations. All the planners have these items in there now and so on. So you can also go check out the Maxwell guides and look for the setup that you want to play. And of course, a lot of people are curious about what is the meta actually going to look like, how balanced are the classes and the builds. If you have played some Diablo 3 in the last few seasons, then you might remember that it's usually just the necromancers far up at the top and then a whole lot of nothing. So this is usually how the tier list looks like, at least for the solo push perspective. Group play, kind of similar story. Nova and Rathma dominate everything. But this time around, it is actually really interesting. I hope that you're enjoying this video so far, but before we continue, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, World of Warships. This is a free-to-play online PC game that allows you to dive into the first half of the 20th century and battle it out at sea. I've actually played this game for a little bit in the past and I found it very fun and engaging. There are over 850 historical ships in this game, spread across 14 different nations. And they each come with their own stats and their own strengths and weaknesses in 5 different classes of ships. The graphics look amazing, and even the combat is designed to be as realistic as possible, for example with changing weather conditions actually affecting the gameplay. And not just that, World of Warships is constantly evolving. They bring out new updates at regular cycles, have collaborations with other games, and there's always something going on. So if you want to dive into something different for a little while, then don't hesitate. I'll have a link down in the description and in the pinned comment with a link to an exclusive starter pack that World of Warships is offering for my viewers. And with that link, you will get a nice head start when you decide to jump in. So good luck at sea, and let's get back to the rest of the video. And I believe that this is actually the overall most balanced season that we might see in the history of Diablo 3, at least from like the modern seasons that don't get any updates anymore, because as I mentioned, it's usually Necros just alone at the top. But this time around, things look very different. These powers here are actually somewhat balanced in the end. At least they bring several builds for several classes pretty close together at the top. And this makes for a relatively diverse speed farming, pushing, and also solo meta. So that's going to be quite enjoyable. So before I dive into the tier list itself, I also want to just highlight some of those powers here, at least the really impactful ones and the most defining ones. Let's go class by class. Here we have the Hoda power for the barbs. This is a big one. This makes your Hoda create a shockwave that hits like the entire screen for like 10 times the damage of a hit. This makes Hoda barb actually really good. Then there's the whirlwind power that also a lot of builds are using, where you just pull everything with you constantly as you whirlwind. So there's a big whirlwind spin to win meta on barbs. And then, yeah, this one is kind of useless. Demon Hunters, they have especially the strafe power. So this makes everything spin to win. Everything is God Demon Hunter basically. This means especially Impale and Multi-Shot. Those 2 builds are going to be crazy. I'm not quite sure about Natalia's yet. I don't think it will really benefit from it, but I will keep a close eye on it. At least for now, I updated the guide without it. Then there's the cluster arrow power. There's also a boost to Marauders, but it's not quite on the same level as some of the other builds. Intervention's kind of useless. Necromancers effectively get nothing besides Rathma. Rathma has this perma Army of the Dead around it, which does make Rathma even better than normal, but it's not a crazy impactful power. The other two are kind of whatever, or kind of just for fun with the command golem here. No build really runs that, but there might be some cases here, maybe something like Pestilence or so, where we could actually go for this. Then we have the Wizard here. So we have especially the Magic Missile power. This is kind of cool for like Firebird, for example. I'm not sure if it actually beats out Meteor, but at least it opens up a really cool playstyle and it feels amazing to play. You shoot like 12 projectiles or something with magic missiles and you can do a lot of damage. This might also be something for DMO, for example. I am not 100% aware of the wizard meta here right now. The Storm Armor power, kind of whatever, and the Arcane Orb power, yeah, this is also for like some kind of random build. Overall, the wizards don't get that much here, but they do have this, and it actually opens up a few things. Also, for example, I think this can be used in Meteor builds to just gain lots of resources and so on. Then we have the Satyrs. So Satyrs have the Fist of the Heavens power. This is like the big one here, I guess, where the Fist of the Heavens, Avatar Valor, speed farming, horse build is just like completely supercharged with this. Right now, we're not 100% sure if this will work together with the build that they introduced for this build at some point, but it should, at least from my expectation, but we'll find it out very soon. And if it does, as expected, then it's going to be very good, very smooth and easy farming build. There's also two other powers, like a Blast Hammer power, that's kind of whatever, and Falling Sword also kind of whatever. So this is mostly the only thing that Crusaders are getting here. Then we have the monks. We have the Way of the 100 Fists power. So this is a really good one. Raiment is actually a relatively strong build, and with this power, it actually gets insane. Like this buffs about like 10 GRs or something like that. So you have to do the Way of the 100 Fists, and you get like 700% damage or something like that for it. And this just kind of goes crazy. And Wave of Light as well. Wave of Light Monk was pretty crazy back in season 27, probably the strongest build that we had up to that point, I think. And it also has like this new Wave of Light technology where you like place the bells on the ground and then you just detonate them with your Cyclone Strikes, for example. So very powerful. Wave of Light has been nerfed since then, but it will probably still be pretty near the top, even with those nerfs that happened in the past thanks to this power. And the 7-sided strike one is kind of whatever here. It's like a little bit of a thing for Willianas. And lastly, we have the Witch Doctors. So they actually get a lot of really interesting stuff. So the biggest one here is the Sanctified Haunt. So this one is, first of all, really good for Jade Harvester, which is not really such a crazy good build, but it will definitely be buffed quite a lot by this power. So it will also hover somewhere up there, but it also allows you to actually do something like a fixed, like around 4-minute boss kill on Mundunugus, for example, or some other build where you can summon this crocodile and this just like eats up on the like HP of the boss or on elites. You can even like one-shot some elites, I think. So it is a kind of interesting power, and you can also just like pull the entire screen together. 60 yards is insane amount of pulling, so this makes stuff like Mundunugu really good. Then you have the Horrify power. It's mostly kind of like a support thing or like a speed farming thing. Nothing crazy, but it does help out the Witch Doctors a bit as well. And we have the Gargantuan stuff here, so if you want to play with pets, so there's like Helltooth Gargs, for example, you can play that as well, but it's nothing really crazy. Of course, you can read up more on those powers here if you want in our individual build guides or in the overview that we have here, as I mentioned. So we have this here in the resource menu, the sanctified items. So there's a lot of like explanations, mechanics, and so on if you're looking for that. We also have a bunch of other guides updated for you. So there's the leveling guides, Helix Gift, and so on. Go check this out if you want to prepare. And now let's finally go into the tier list. So we have our tier list up here, and there are lots of different tier lists out there. So the most important one is the solo pushing, and this is what we also focus the most on here in this video. And as you can see, there are actually more than one class in the S tier category. This is crazy. You see so many green arrows up, and you see here usually it's like those 3, 4, 5 necro builds or something at the top. But we have a lot of stuff here. In fact, I believe the only class that we didn't put into S tier territory is Witch Doctor, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be tough for them to get the 150 done or so. We will absolutely see every class do 150 without a ridiculous amount of Paragon. So I expect maybe by the end of the first week or so, we're probably going to have even Witch Doctors clear 150. So this is kind of like what I expect, at least, depending on how much people are going to blast. There must be someone to actually do that. But yeah, overall, as you can see here, first of all, we have the good old Nova builds. We have Raphma as well. So those Necro builds will remain quite where they are, with, yeah, especially Raphma getting a little bit stronger and the Nova builds kind of just like staying where they are. But a lot of stuff here moves up to the S tier thanks to some of those powers. I mentioned, for example, the Demon Hunters with the Strafe power. So the Strafe powers really buff Multi-Shot and Impale, so they are spin to win builds. Natalia is up here as well, so we have 3 Demon Hunter represents. We have the Fist of the Heavens, at least if everything works right with the Crucible power as we think it does. So this is going to be a very powerful build. We have 2 Barb builds with Raker and Hoda. Personally, I would recommend go Hoda here if you're playing a Barb, because Raker is usually already kind of like, you know, the highest anyway, or one of the highest pushing builds on a Barb. But here you have this cool shockwave power, so that's really amazing. And yeah, as I mentioned, Raymond is getting really strong here, and we have the 2 Wave of Light builds, Samboku and LOD. They are also getting really buffed by 2 of those powers that the monks are getting. And the last but not least here we have the Bazooka Meteor Wizard, also really strong. Archon plus Meteor is a very powerful combo, and I mentioned you can do some stuff, for example, with the magic missiles here. Now, when it comes to the actual distribution of Greater Rift tiers here, they are actually pretty close together in S tier. So it will depend a little bit also on, like, you know, the gear and the progression and the exact Paragon levels, but they are fairly close compared to what we usually see. So choosing any of those here is going to be a solid choice, I guess, with maybe the one exception of Bazooka being probably the hardest to gear and to play in this category. But overall, I'd say you can't really go wrong with any of this. But this also shouldn't really make you not choose any of those other builds here. So if you are really looking forward to playing a certain build again, A tier is still really powerful. All of these builds will also clear 150 just fine at some point, maybe with higher Paragons, or at least they will get really close, depending on how hard you try. And then even B tier, like, we will see really good performance on a lot of these different builds. In general, the power level is just really high these days, thanks to some of the updates that we have seen back in the last balance patch in Season 30. And also we have the permanent Altar of Rights now. In case you remember that from Season 28, you can like get this meta progression and get a bunch of extra powers here. So that's really nice. And this generally just lifted up a lot of builds through the higher tiers here. So we don't really have a lot of builds down here anymore in C or D or even F tier. So this is just mostly empty. And a lot of stuff has kind of moved a lot closer together, as you can see here. It's basically all distributed in between like S, A, and B. And that's it. If you're wondering what I'm going to play, well, I'll do softcore group play for once. So usually I've always been doing like the hardcore SSF stuff whenever I played, at least before like the 4 launch and so on. But I got convinced and talked into blasting some group stuff. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'll be a Demon Hunter for the most part, at least for most of the weekend. I'm planning to do especially multi-shot and maybe some Impale, maybe some other stuff, we'll see. And if that is not enough to satisfy me, then I'll probably also make a Monk or a Crusader or something. So we'll see what I will do. Maybe a second class comes in here. In any case, that's my breakdown for Season 34. I will see if I upload some more stuff for it, but it also depends on how long I'm actually going to play the season. So in any case, I wish you good luck, have fun. Check out the tier list here. I will link this down in the description as well, and you know, some of the other important guides, so you can go check us out. Otherwise, you always find us here on Max Roll. So hope you liked this. Wish you good luck and see you guys next time.